You were out of town when these two videos surfaced. I'm sure you've seen the two videos. What are your thoughts when you got back in town?
Well, listen, let me just simply say this. I was out of town, certainly on a conference, and I've seen the videos, and the videos on site, without any context, both videos are troubling. And so certainly, we've initiated an investigation, but we also have to understand that the video only tells one part of the story. And as we look at videos, we get into investigating it. For instance, the incident that happened last Thursday, we found out that the suspect grabbed the testicles of the officer, causing physical injury. So, we have to be careful not to rush to judgment when we see videos, certainly, even though the videos are troubling to us. But we also have been doing this quite a while to understand that there's always a bigger picture. There's always more to the story. And in that incident, certainly last week when the officer got injured, we see that we have a responsibility to do a thorough investigation.
And for the video of the officer shown forcibly putting a 16-year-old girl on the concrete sidewalk, what are your thoughts on that video? Well,
I was troubled certainly by the video as well, but nonetheless, that case too will have to be investigated. It's a lengthy process. It can be a lengthy process. There's people that have to be interviewed, but it's also important to know that when I've seen it, there's the appearance of excessive force. It doesn't mean that it is, but the appearance. Being troubled by it, I wanted to make sure that the community understood that we take these type of certainly allegations and videos very serious, to the extent that I immediately ordered the investigation to be conducted by the Office of Professional Responsibility, and I have also reached out to the Department of Justice, FBI, to also review the case as well. And so it's important that the community understands that we are transparent. We're going to be transparent. I think this is a great time for me to simply say that if the investigation in either case determines our officer is proper, we are going to support and back that officer irrespective to public opinion. But the public also needs to understand if the investigation determines that our officer used excessive force, we're going to meet that challenge head on and we're going to deal with it.
And one of the concerns that a lot of people are having is if there's missing context, why not show any sort of body camera footage, especially if there's no indication it could go before a grand jury?
Well, which case are you referring to?
Both of them.
Okay, so you have to understand, our long-standing policy is we do not release body-worn camera. For the prime example that without context, it only tells a part of the story. It does not tell the story, whether it's an officer's body-worn camera or in the case of certainly the two incidences that have occurred this past week. Video requires context. There's no way around that. And so, I'm a 29-year veteran of law enforcement, and if I've seen these videos without context and troubled, I understand the community is. But that's why these investigations are important. That's why it's important that the community have patience right along with me. I want the answers just like everyone else wants, and we're going to get to the answers. We have a professional organization here. In spite of these two incidences that have occurred in a week, certainly I will tell you that we have a long-standing policy not to release body-worn camera footages, but there's also, the propensity for these cases to go to the district attorney's office and to the grand jury. And so we have to preserve that evidence in spite of public opinion.
Okay, and this is based on a 2020 page from the handbook that we found online. Is the first paragraph, or first sentence rather, in the use of force section says, many decisions and actions of law enforcement officers have serious consequences, but none are as irrevocable as a decision to use force. What would you say about that?
I completely agree. That use of force, if you went down further on the policy, would also say that the amount of force that's reasonable to affect the arrest or the detention. You know, it's easy to sit back and criticize and critique an officer, but that officer has one time to make a decision. And if that decision is excessive, it can certainly be costly. So, you know, we don't justify wrongdoing, and I can assure you, the men and women at this police department knows where I stand with treating everybody with dignity and respect, and I want that aired. We've worked very hard, you know, to build relations and trust in the community, to the extent that no other organization, no other entity is in the community like the Mobile Police Department, regardless of what they are trying to do. We're out there with job placement. We're out there trying to provide skills and give people mentoring where they need mentoring and resources where they need resources that no other organization is doing, and we've done very well at that. We're not going to let this be a distraction from you know, 25% down in violent crime over the last 22 months because of what the men and women in this department are doing, and they're having to do it every single day. You know, I will go on a limb and tell you this will not be the last video. In today's society with technology, there's always a video that's going to show itself, but we also have to understand that videos take context, and that's why these investigations are important. That's why we're not going to condemn our officers, but we're certainly not going to say that the defendant was wrong. We have to look at these objectively, and that's why we've asked certainly the Department of Justice through the FBI to look into it, and that's why we also asked OPR to investigate these, because they are objective investigations, and it's not the police chief, it's not the Mobile Police Department saying that a person has done something wrong or a person hasn't done anything wrong. That decision does not rest with me. If there are criminal charges in any scenario for whatever reason against an officer, and we hope that's not the case, that decision does not rest with me. That decision rests with the district attorney's office and the grand jury.
And based on your 29 years of experience that you mentioned and from what you've seen so far, do you think the amount of force reflects the amount of resistance that you can see from those videos?
Which video?
Either one. You can go to both.
Well, if you're referring to the video last week where the suspect grabbed the officer's testicles, you know, that is still under investigation. There's a lot more certainly to be learned. When I seen the video, I was troubled by the video. But there are no absolutes in law enforcement. A person can be detained and handcuffed and still resist, still actively fight, still escape law enforcement. You know, there are two things to that video when I see. One is, you know, maybe women may not understand this completely, but certainly every man that watches this interview can certainly attest that there's probably two reactions. One is instinctively. The second one is that the officer was trying, you know, to at least get the suspect to release his grip. The difference between that video and the first video is certainly we have physical evidence of the injury. You know, the officer has went to the doctor. The officer will follow up certainly with the doctor to determine if there's any long-term damage. So, you know, to say that it was excessive, knowing what I know now, you know, I would simply say that it's understandable that the type force that was used. You know, the other incident involving the juvenile, you know, it appears to be, but I'm only basing that based on certainly the officer's size. You know, I'll go ahead in full transparency and simply tell you that the officer did not have his body-worn camera activated, and that's problematic, certainly. But we're still going to deal with this, you know, trying to ascertain all the evidence, if there's video footage from the school itself, and all that took place. I can just tell you that the video appears to be troubling, but that doesn't mean that the officer's actions were not unwarranted, and only the investigation and the investigation itself will tell us if there's any merit to the force.
And if, this is one of the last questions I have for you, if preliminary evidence shows that there could be an assault on a police officer in the first video, and in the second video that may not be merited, then how come the first officer is on administrative leave and the other one's on administrative duty? Is there a difference there?
Well, there is a difference there, but my understanding is both officers are on administrative leave. Now, you know, administrative duty is simply that an officer is no longer in the field doing police work, that the officer has been placed on, in essence, what we call desk duty or some type of administrative duty. Administrative leave is typically when an officer is placed on admin leave and they're off, but they're being paid and they're not conducting police duties. We will typically, and you know, every case, every situation has its own merit, but the idea is that we take them out of that element, you know, where the issue may have been or not been, but it gives everyone an opportunity to sit back and reflect and at least get their thoughts together for the ensuing investigation that's about to occur. As the officer involving the most recent incident, he has been placed on admin duty and subsequently will then be placed on administrative duty for the duration of the investigation.
And where do those investigations stand right now? Are they just...
Well, you're certainly, I mean, you're talking about an incident that just happened Tuesday. You know, witnesses, certainly there were other individuals that were there that have to be interviewed, and, you know, investigators have to work around people's times, their schedules. You know, there's subpoenas that have to be sent out. You know, these are not things that are just done within a week's time. I mean, they could take months on end, depending on how fast the investigation happens. You also have to understand these investigators are also working these cases in addition to other investigations. So, you know, things have to be prioritized, and certainly because of the notoriety that these videos have taken, they've kind of moved to the top of the list.
Well, that's all I have for you. I appreciate your help.
All right, you bet. Thank you.
Can I get one? Can I get one?
You trying to get a two-shot?
No, I'm talking about just one question.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, and you can look at him when you answer.
Okay, I will.
And you probably...
Even though you're answering or asking it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chief, I guess, I don't even know if you can answer this question, but, you know, we keep seeing these things happen across this country. And, you know, I understand each incident, I mean, each circumstance is different. But in your best answer or opinion, what is the solution to all of this?
Well, the solution to this is that the public does not jump to conclusions. There is no doubt there has been national attention, certainly, to issues that merited such attention. The truth is that every case in and of itself has its own situation, circumstances, and merit. They have to be examined independent of each other. You know, we've had 2 incidences in a week, and that does not necessarily mean there's a trend or a pattern. In fact, I would say it's not. Not when you consider the amount of contacts between law enforcement and the general public every single day. If we were talking about the same officer involved in both incidences, then we could make that argument, but that's not the argument here today. The solution is the public, certainly leaders in the community working with law enforcement so we can exchange information and transparency for these investigations. And just to be quite frank with you, we do have leaders, you know, whether it's nationally or even locally, you know, that, you know, they want transparency, but they're not willing to sit at the table to learn. And that also includes the police chief. The police chief is always willing to learn, and we understand that we live in a gray society. Things are not white and black or as clear as some of us try to make it that they are. So we need to understand that we all live in a gray spectrum, and things are not always what they see, and that's what these investigations do, is they provide transparency and certainly facts, and irrespective to emotions watching these videos, the facts are going to tell us whether or not excessive force was used or not.
Well, that's all I have for you. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.